Okay, welcome back. Professor, we took some questions yesterday off our Facebook page, and one of them I'll ask now before you go into your four main offices. He goes, why, and this is from Kester Osahenye, and he goes, why did you leave PACT, the coalition that was set up to bring some of the new age, quote unquote, new age aspirants and candidates together?
Yeah.
Why did you leave PACT when Fela Durotoye was appointed?
I didn't leave PACT. PACT left me.
Oh, okay.
Now, let me say more
Yes.
seriously. You see, PACT was supposed to be, it was a mistake for me
Okay.
to have joined PACT.
Okay.
The point is this.
Why did you join though?
Because out of respect for the youth,
Okay.
I identified with this whole idea of younger aspirants coming together to present a common front in order to have a more realistic chance of beating the old order.
Yes.
But a lot of our young politicians acted in a way that shows that they're not ready for prime time. The whole idea was for us to present the strongest candidate from amongst us. It was not meant to become a competitive process.
Did it become a competitive process?
It became, some people manipulated it to become a competitive process with a predetermined conclusion for their own interests.
Back to the old order.
Which is really back to the old order. So the process was fundamentally flawed. We said, look, we should wait until the primaries. Let us know who are the actual candidates of parties, such as I am now. I'm a candidate of the YPP. I'm not an aspirant anymore. I will contest the 2019 election, period.
And the process looked hastened as well.
Exactly. They were rushing it for a predetermined end. And that left a sour taste in the mouth of several people. People kept leaving the group. Even as voting was going on, some people got up and were leaving. You know, but just out of respect for the process and out of respect for young people, I sat through it. But at the end of the day, I found out that the outcome was not the result of a fair and transparent process. And so, of course, as a person of principle, I had to leave. Because even in a real election, the fact that you went through an electoral process right up to the end, if you have reason to believe that the process was flawed, you have the right to reject the results and go to court. It happens every day in Nigeria.
Some will say you left because you were not picked.
No, I left because the process was flawed. Let's be very, very clear. Because if the process was not corrupted and flawed, it would not have produced the outcome it produced. Everybody knew who the person was in that group that stood a real chance of beating the established order. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be modest. That person is me.
Okay.
Because you need to be president of Nigeria is not a tea party. The fact that you're young doesn't qualify you to be president of Nigeria. You've got to have experience. You've got to have preparation. You've got to have a certain level of gravitas. Presidency of Nigeria is not a picnic. So if we want to go into it as younger, new aspirants, we must be serious. We must put our best foot forward and put forward a candidate that, based on the qualifications, the credentials, and the track record, the character, the competence, the capacity, that person can be seen by a broad cross-section of the Nigerian electorate as the right kind of person to back.
Awesome.
That's what PACT was supposed to be, but it was hijacked and moved into something else. So I'm sorry. I said I'm not going to be trapped by my good intentions for the Nigerian youth. I'm not going to sit here and accept things that are not quite right.
Okay, we have a caller. Hello, what's your name and where you're calling from? Hello?
Hello?
Okay, please speak into your phone, and what's your name and where you're calling from?
Okay, this is Olu Omoyele. I'm calling from Kent in England.
Okay, what's your question for Professor Moghalu?
So I think first I would like to say that I agree with the idea of having a philosophical backdrop of the kind of mindset changes
Indeed
that are needed in Nigeria.
Okay.
But if you get elected, what are the concrete policies that you will try to put into place, and more importantly, how will you achieve that? How will you achieve that? Bearing in mind the sort of governmental system that we have. We have a federal system. Governors of states have a lot of power. They have a lot of ability to get things done or to prevent things from getting done. Parliament is a very corrupt framework. How will you achieve it?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. There are three things.
Thank you.
There are three things I will do as president. The first is that I'm going to set up 4 offices in my office of the president: the Office of National Strategy, the Office of Performance Management, the Office of Risk Management, and the Office of Human Capital Development. These 4 offices will drive the presidency. You will not find a politician, as I often say, within a 10-mile radius of these offices, because I'm a serious professional and I want to deliver results to the Nigerian people. So the National Strategy Office will set the big picture, the big benchmarks and milestones and who's responsible for what. Within 4 years, this is the big, hairy, audacious goal that we have to achieve. Now, the Office of Risk Management will help me manage the risks that prevent politicians from fulfilling their promises. I am not giving you promises. I have a plan. And that plan is in my book, Build, Innovate, and Grow, my vision for our country. Now, that risk management function will help us to manage a number of risks that show up in governance. One is political risk. The risk that a leader begins to pander too much to political interests and fails to be, organizationally efficient, if you see what I'm saying. It's just playing to populist or to be popular, but achieving nothing in reality. This risk always destroys political leaders in Nigeria. So they put the cat before the horse, and that's because they're not leaders. They're just politicians. I am not really a politician. I'm a leader, and I'm into, politics beyond leadership beyond politics. That's what I'm trying to bring. So the Risk Management Office will help you manage strategic risks, like if you depend solely on the price of oil, what I call the worship of the small gods of small things. Then there are risks like operational risks. The civil service doesn't function effectively. How do you manage that risk? That's where the Office of Human Capital Development comes in to help us retrain the public service. The Office of Performance Management will monitor every part of the government, every quarter. Are you achieving your own part of the national strategy? If you're not, accountabilities will kick in. Like I say, I expect to fire probably 1 minister or 2 within the first 6 months. And then people will know that we're serious. We're not here to play at all. When I become president, you will see the kind of governance that you have never seen before in Nigeria. We're not joking. I have been prepared for it. So that's the first thing. The second thing, you talked about the system of governance. We must constitutionally restructure the Nigerian Federation.
How obsolete is our constitution?
It is completely obsolete. One, it is not a people's constitution. It was made by the military, essentially. Number 2, it is not a constitution that is consistent with the term Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is a unitary constitution where a lot of the powers are vested in the central government. Powers over minerals, over natural resources, for example, powers over revenues that come from natural resources.
Our only mainstay currently.
Yeah, everything goes to the federal government. They only distribute to the states and the other. Yeah, exactly. So Nigeria is not working because this constitution is unworkable. That's why you find of the 36 states of the federation, only 6 states are financially solvent. The others must rely every month on handouts from the federal government. So the powers that the state governors have is not a power that is being used productively. It is a power over rentier oil rents. That's what it is. We get our share, we distribute it, we use it how we like. Now, if you devolve powers down to the people, down to the 6 geopolitical zones, when they become the federating units, and you remove a lot of powers from the federal government, different parts of Nigeria will now be able to take charge of their own destiny within the country.
Becomes competitive.
Yeah, it becomes competitive, and we can actually grow and develop ourselves. So this is yet another thing that I'm going to lead, but it is not only for me as president. The National Assembly is the one to change the Constitution. They are the ones to, pass the laws, and the state assemblies that will restructure the Nigerian Constitution. But as president, I will provide leadership by setting out the vision. The only reason Nigeria cannot be restructured today is because President Muhammadu Buhari doesn't want to restructure Nigeria. So you can theoretically have the powers in the National Assembly, but it's not going to happen when the president, who is the number 1 in the government architecture, does not want it. So this is my own approach to the whole thing.
Yesterday you talked about one of the biggest problems as well is the current system we have is not set up in a way to to bring out or to discover the minds.
Yes.
The minds that can talk about.
Yeah.
And you talked about political apartheid
Yeah.
yesterday,
Yes.
where it's possible because some people will say, oh, his Igbo is from the East.
Yes.
And we have a zoning system.
Yes.
It's not their turn.
Exactly.
How do you intend to deal with that, or how has that affected you in your journey to where you are?
In fact, it is very ironic, but what I find as I go around the country is that people are tired and have no regard for those kinds of things anymore. The failure of our political leaders has been so acute. People are getting so poor that they are no longer interested in that opium of the masses, zoning, you know, that the politicians are feeding them. They now want who will be an effective president. We don't care where the person comes from. That's what I hear now when I go around the whole country. And I'm telling them zoning is an anachronism. It is political apartheid, and it has no place. It is against human rights. Anybody from any part of Nigeria who has a vision from Nigeria should be able to aspire. And that's why one of the reasons, of course, I could not possibly have joined the PDP or the APC, because under their apartheid system, based on the part of the country I come from, I cannot aspire to be president. That's apartheid. That is discriminatory. And so, of course, yes, it doesn't make any sense. And that's why we have this, you know, continuous recycling of failed politicians, because the only reason that they're selected to rule us, they're not leading us, they're just ruling us, is because of where they come from. Not because they have any vision, not because they have any competence you and I are impressed by. No, it's because they are from, oh, quote unquote, the North, the quote unquote, the West, quote unquote, the East. That's not a basis for leadership selection in the 21st century. Nigeria needs to join the 21st century with a competent leader.
You are in town for a town hall. Well, you had your lecture yesterday.
At the London School.
And this Saturday, he's going to be having a town hall meeting at the University of East London, the Stratford campus, and kicks off from 3 p.m., goes on till 7 o'clock. And trust me, that's going to be explosive. We're going to go into a break right now. When we come back, we'll talk more about the town hall meeting, and we'll take a few more calls. Stay tuned.